Well, the unboxings just keep on coming. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? This is my unboxing. It's my turn now. The unboxing of the Poco F2 Pro. Okay, so the unboxing of this, obviously I'm holding the box that I've already emptied out, but I just wanted to say that this is a very exciting time because last year when the Poco F1 first came out, it was one of the better performing videos on my channel, which was still very young. So to have a chance to take a look at this shortly after the global launch, I find it to be pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this phone at an affordable price is able to bring. Going through the box contents, it actually doesn't start off with just the phone immediately. It's actually the area where you would get the documentation, the quick start guide for example, and then the first thing that we see, and I'm always happy to see this, is a case. Now this particular case is not just like a soft cover, it's actually a bit tougher than that, and I can already feel from the case immediately that it will provide a good amount of grip. At first we take a look at the front of the phone, encased in this plastic which shows some of the main points. It has the Snapdragon 865 with a cooling system, a 6.67-inch AMOLED full-screen display, and we mean a full-screen display this time because there is a pop-up camera. It's like the only phone in 2020 so far that has a pop-up camera. I'm super happy to see that. And speaking of cameras, for a phone that is under $500, you have a 64-megapixel quad camera setup, which includes the capability of 8K video. That's really exciting. Oh, and by the way, that pop-up camera is of a 20-megapixel variety. And then finally, there is a 4700 milliamp hour battery, although it was a little bit tough for me to get this. I believe this is the European plug out of there. So a 30-watt charger means that you can use any 30-watt charger and you'll be able to get this thing topped up pretty quickly. Already I'm loving the look of this phone. There's a premium shine to it, and the backing, even though it's glossy, does provide a little bit of a grip, so handling is not too bad on here, even if the screen is pretty large. That said though, this case definitely makes quite a difference because the back of this case is very textured. It's got almost like this... And also, the material of this phone just feels better than the last one. I mean, I know that the Poco F1 was actually a very affordable price. It was even more budget friendly, but this one being a couple $100-ish more, it does feel like you're getting more than that as far as the design and the feel go. One little touch that I already enjoyed was this power button on the side. It's a tiny flourish of color, which is like a red or red-orange type power button. It's just that tiny little bit that just gives the phone a little extra flair. After all, the entire thing is white. But speaking of eye candy, that AMOLED display, this is a sight to behold. I have to say that in 2020, it's a little bit of a disappointment that we haven't really had any displays that are literally full screen. That's because usually there's like a punch hole or some sort of like small notch, maybe like a U notch or something like that. But this time around, it is literally a pop-up camera. And yes, you heard a sound effect from there because I already went into the settings and started customizing it, because not only does the pop-up camera make a sound when it pops up and goes back down for things like face unlock, but it also has a bit of an LED color to it, so you can see a little bit of an extra flourish when you're using the pop-up camera. But as far as biometrics are concerned, there's still a fingerprint reader up front, nice little animations for that as well, and I also noticed just how bright the fingerprint reader gets to do the reading. And all of this is to say that the complete display is there for your enjoyment. It's definitely a sight to behold. It may not be a high resolution screen, it is at full HD plus resolution, and also it might not be a high refresh rate screen, but all in all, it is still a great experience so far. And you know what? It's great to see a phone like this with these kinds of specifications come in at a lower price in many more markets. But you know what? If more people get to benefit from having this level of performance because the phone is at a more affordable price, well then more power to more people. Now the software is MIUI, it's MIUI 11, and now this is obviously the global version of the phone, so that means that things should look pretty well put together. And even then, it's nice to have a lot of customization features like the theme, the icon packs. I switched over to full screen gestures, and once I get to the home screens, it's nice to see that Google Now is the left side home screen. I also made sure that the Game Turbo app, which basically lists all of the games that you can enhance with extra features, I made sure that that shortcut was on the home screen as well. That way I could get into games like Call of Duty Mobile immediately. I turned all of the settings on in Call of Duty Mobile. So far I haven't had any issues. I imagine that the liquid cooling is helping out, but at the same time, you just get high performance on this phone, and that's always a great prospect. But of course, one of the main considerations here is going to be the camera. And if I remember correctly, the Poco F1 had a decent camera. It definitely had the specs to back it up. Now we have a lot of experience under Xiaomi's belt, and the apps kind of show that. The camera app has a lot of the same features that I've seen in other phones like the Mi 10 Pro. And after all, the main sensor is a 64 megapixel shooter capable of 8K video recording. Now, I don't have any 8K videos to show off here, but I did take a few photos, not remembering, of course, that there is a watermark in most of these Xiaomi backed phones, so I did get a little bit annoyed at that, but I'll make sure to turn it off for my upcoming content. There are a couple of little interface flourishes that I'm already enjoying, like for example, you have a slider so that you can do a smooth zoom, kind of like a camcorder. I don't imagine that I'm going to use that too often, but it's nice to have it there if you want to have a more smooth movement getting closer to your subject. And speaking of getting close to a subject, there is a 5 megapixel telephoto macro lens, so once you turn on that mode, you can get real close to a subject. So you have different zoom levels, 1, 2, and of course an ultra wide, and of course that ultra wide is its own sensor at 13 megapixels. I did also take a couple of selfies, but again, we're not really getting into the full review yet. That's going to be a little bit later. I just want to show off a few of the things that I'm already enjoying on this phone. The pop-up camera, obviously one of my favorite things so far. I just love that there's something different in the market right now because hole punches were starting to get a little bit too ubiquitous. Overall, I'm pretty happy so far in my first impressions of the Poco F2 Pro. It's great to see Poco come back. It's great to see them go for the lower price points, but still providing that high-end experience. The specs on this are definitely where a flagship should be, and Poco is bringing back the term flagship killer. We'll see with the Poco F2 Pro. Now, quick clarification, as I was recording this video, I was saying that this phone is under $500, but in reality, it's like $540 if you convert it from 499 euros, which is actually what the price is. After all, this phone is not available in the US. However, it is available in Europe where you can get it for under 500 euros, and maybe it's something you might want to import because it's still cheaper than many of the flagships we have here in the US. So time will tell about how I feel ultimately about the Poco F2 Pro. This has got a unique look to it, a sturdy build, great specifications, and in the end I am going to end up asking, as I did with the Poco F1, who is this phone for? But with all of that said, yet another unboxing done here on my channel. I know that a bunch of them have been coming through. I think even more are going to happen at the beginning of next week. So stay tuned for all of that, and my final reviews on a lot of different products are on their way. Like for example, the Pixel Buds, which you have seen me use in multiple Instagram stories and Instagram lives. It obviously has been my go-to for a number of reasons, which I'll show you in my full review coming very, very soon. From there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Stick around and drop some likes on this video. Let me know what you think about the Poco F2 Pro in the comment sections down below, and then subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you're new here, thank you so much for sticking around. Enjoy these last couple shots of the Poco F2 Pro as I call it on this one, and thank you once again. Until my next video, I would just remind you to enjoy your tea, everybody.